everybody, and welcome back to Revival Health. I'm Lindsay, and on this channel I talk about functional medicine, natural living, and more. Today's topic is going to be stress and how it affects you, what you can do about it, and why it matters. So I have to just say that I feel like I'm really qualified to discuss this topic. I worked as an emergency room nurse for many years. I am married to a first responder who has worked shift work for many years. I am raising 3 small kids. I'm very familiar with stress, and I want to help you guys know how to manage it well to prevent having any long-term complications from it. So first we have to kind of define what is stress, right? Because stress is very individual. What is very stressful for me may not stressful for you. And on the flip side, a lot will depend on your learned coping mechanisms and skills and how you can decompress from the stress. For example, a Navy SEAL is going to be able to handle a humongous amount of stress and in many environments thrive. Other people, for example, who get completely freaked out when they get the wrong coffee order in the morning. There's a lot to be said for your ability to handle the stress and your temperament and personality. So stress is very individualized, but it's important that we discuss it. So some common stressors that occur right now in our world are lack of sleep, financial insecurity, food instability or insecurity, having a very difficult or demanding job, caring for aging parents, loss of loved ones, raising teenagers, any transition in life, getting married, going to college, beginning a new job, becoming empty nesters, all of those things where you experience a significant transition can be very stressful in your life. Some stress is good, right? You need to have a stress response in order to be able to handle things that come up in your day and in your life. So not all stress is bad. We have to remember our bodies are designed and wired to respond to stressful situations, right? There's good stress, transitions that are positive, or opportunities for us to rise to a challenge. Like those are good opportunities for stress, and our bodies will respond in an appropriate way. The problem sets in when we are experiencing chronic stress. In an environment of stress, your body goes into what's called fight or flight. It activates the sympathetic nervous system. This increases your heart rate, redirects blood away from digestion, causes decreased ability to fight infection, can cause trouble sleeping, elevated blood sugars. When you're in a stressful state, your body thinks you need readily accessible fuel in order to fight or flight, right? So your body will release more sugar into the bloodstream. And so living in a chronic state of elevated blood sugars is definitely not ideal, can lead to insulin resistance and other metabolic disorders that are no bueno. In these periods of stress, whether acute or chronic, your body is going to produce more cortisol. This is your get up and go hormone. This is typically highest early in the morning and decreases throughout the day and should taper down at night. But in a state of chronic or acute stress, cortisol can remain elevated, and this can become really problematic for you. Not only for the reasons I mentioned before, but cortisol uses the same building blocks and raw materials essentially that our body needs to synthesize and make other hormones like testosterone, estrogen, other sex hormones. It uses the same building blocks, but cortisol is a master hormone and it is a thief, meaning that if your body perceives that it needs elevated amounts of cortisol, it will steal those raw building materials away, and you will have a lot of trouble with your hormones because your body literally can't produce enough of what it needs because cortisol is stealing all the resources. So what do? You must learn to control your stress or it will 100% control you. And I think it's really important to note here that we cannot always change our circumstances. Not everybody can quit their job. Not everybody can dump all of their responsibilities and go take a vacation for a year. That's really not possible for the overwhelming majority of the population. So how do you manage stress in the middle of a stressful time in life? You want to try to do whatever you can to enter into the parasympathetic nervous system. So I said earlier, when you're in the state of stress, you're in the sympathetic nervous system. The great thing about your body is that you cannot activate both sympathetic and parasympathetic at the same time. It is one or the other. And there are many things you can do, easy things, quick things, to shift out of the fight or flight sympathetic system and get into the rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system, which is where you want to spend as much time as possible in your life. Prayer, low impact exercise, restorative exercise. If you're someone who really enjoys being in nature, hiking or walking in nature, biking, etc., things like that that bring you joy and bring you peace are really good options. Sleep is probably the most underrated thing that you can do for stress management. Unfortunately, stress can lead to dysfunctional cortisol patterns. And really, cortisol works in opposition to melatonin in the sense that cortisol peaks in the morning and slowly declines throughout the day in an ideal circumstance. As cortisol is declining almost to its trough, the lowest part, melatonin is surging up to do its thing at night and help you get ready for bed. Unfortunately, when you have dysfunctional cortisol patterns, it can interfere with your body's natural ability to produce melatonin, and that can lead to difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep. But you're not helpless. There's many things that you can do for that as well. Reducing exposure to artificial light, blue light like television, phones, iPads, screens, laptops. Reducing your exposure to those things later in the evening can help boost your natural melatonin production. Dimming the lights, right? Like our bodies were designed to sleep when it's dark. So if we begin to naturally dim the lights and decrease the stimulation in the evening, it signals to our body, it's time to wind down, it's time to make melatonin, it's time to rest. It may also be helpful if you're getting away from the screens to take a break from social media. I hate to break it to you guys because I love good Instagram stuff, but let me tell you, our bodies and brains are not designed to be barraged with snippets of information until the moment we fall asleep. It's literally too much for our brains to handle, especially when there's a lot going on in the world like there is right now, and you almost get into what's called doom scrolling, where you find yourself almost unable to stop because you're trying to get information and see what's happening in the world. So I highly recommend setting for yourself a cutoff time from screens and social media. A lot of people say 2 hours before you're trying to go to bed. I try to do at least an hour myself if I can help it, to be away from the screens. Number one, it helps my mind to just relax, but my brain doesn't perceive all that artificial light that's telling me it's still daytime. Keep making the cortisol, don't make the melatonin. So when you reduce the lights, your brain is signaling to your body, oh, it's beginning to be dark, I don't need to stay awake. This may seem silly and trivial, but I'm telling you, laughter is the best medicine. It is so helpful in order to manage your stress. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a super stressful environment at work or at home or wherever, and somebody will crack a joke and it's like the icebreaker, the tension is broken. It is like comic relief. Laughter is truly excellent medicine for stress. And lastly, I just want to encourage you Don't forget to make time for yourself and for the things that you enjoy, that bring you joy, that fill you up and light you up. As I said before, you cannot always change your circumstances, but you have to find ways to mitigate the stress so you can feel good and help to prevent some of these complications. Again, those complications can be chronic inflammation, which is a root cause of all disease, decreased immune system and immune function, which can impair your ability just to fight regular infections, but can also decrease your ability for your immune system to kill things like cancer cells, right? We're all exposed to cancer cells. We all have cancer cells. Our immune systems are just usually good at killing them. But if we have chronically decreased immune system, right? That's why you always get sick when you feel run down. That's because you've worn your immune system down. So not only are you at risk for the problems with your blood sugars, with your sleep disturbances, with your immune system function, your digestion will be poor, which can lead to things like leaky gut. And if you haven't seen my video on leaky gut, go back and watch it. You definitely want to avoid it if at all possible. As always, I hope this video was helpful for you. It is always my goal to provide you with information and empower you to have informed conversations with the healthcare providers in your life so you can be thriving. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing so you can stay connected and be informed when new videos like this one release. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.